um, and we are coming up to the open of the Euro USD market here, and we just want to read a bar by bar price action here on the 5-minute candles, and I think it's good to have a good perspective of what's going on in the big picture, so you have an idea of what the trend is, so that we can easily classify if we're doing trend, counter trend type of plays. Actually, I would say that there is like a trend follow, a counter trend play, and then also a reversal play. And if you can know which one of those three that you're actually doing, that's really, really cool. Okay, so and there's definitions that I use for all three of those terms, so we'll be getting to that a little bit later. But looking at this market, this is the epitrender being pulled off the 15-minute chart. It gives me just the slightest inclination of trend. I'm not even going to put on the zones because I just really want this to be more about reading the bars. But we've been below the trender, now we've come up above it, and it looks like we're in an uptrend here. So let's get started here. This is the next bar. Obviously it's a new high. You know, we're making new higher highs on every single bar as we're doing this stuff. I'm actually going to put in one indicator. It's called the bar number indicator, just so that we know what bar we're talking about. And you guys can see the bar numbers down here, so it's pretty easy to follow along. And I know there's a lot of people that like to read just the bars, and obviously I really like to read the bars too. So here's our first red candle, and I'd like to just point out the wick on this candle here. Okay, wicks tell us a lot, or they can help us tell us a lot. So a lot of times when we see really big wicks on candles, like with this case, this is kind of like a shooting star candle. I need a little bit of a wick just to be like a perfect shooting star candle. But over here, this would be a hammer candle. Notice that they're pretty much exactly like. This one's a little bit bigger than that one, but pretty much the same thing. And we're going to get into all of this here in the APA price action school in depth. But wicks do tell us quite a bit. So a lot of times when we're looking at a wick touching a zone, that could be the first signs of resistance. Okay. Now, what you have to watch out for on like a hammer candle or a shooting star candle like this is we're really looking for price to go below the low of that bar right there. Okay. And then you're looking for your first signs of support and resistance down to the downside, just because, you know, this could be a nice little reversal. It could also just be a little hiccup in the grand scheme of things, like what we see here. Obviously we did not see the low of this candle being breached at all, so there's no real reason to be thinking short at this time, other than there was a big wick on this candle here. Okay, so next candle, we have a lot of force coming into here, and you know, obviously we still have the uptrend in play. I don't really feel like there's any place to really get into the market so far as any type of positions, just from price action standpoint. But we do have a very bullish market going on. I think it would be prudent to possibly draw a trend line from this low over. Actually, that was the wrong tool. So drawing a low from that low to that low right there. And that's where my trend line goes. And now we are just going to keep that in mind just to see if we see a big pullback. Maybe price will interact with the trender and the trend line together. That could be, you can see the trend line or the trender starting to push up as well. We're seeing higher highs on every single one of these candles, so it really does look like the uptrend is in good momentum and good force. Now we've seen this really big green candle here, and this current candle that we have going on, this is a smaller candle, right? Like it's not nearly as big as this previous green bar, and almost this green candle minus the wick was inside the wick of the previous bar. So that to me represents a little bit of exhaustion. We've had expansion. Now we're maybe coming into a little bit of exhaustion, but we're making higher highs, so no reason to really be looking to the short side at all. Okay, we pumped up just a little bit higher. Nothing really to be said on this. It looks like the uptrend is still continuing. Uptrend is still continuing. New high. Alright, now we have our first red bar. So, that's nice. As we are looking at things here, if we get a break below this candle's low, like these two candles low, from a price action standpoint, I'm looking for areas of consolidation over here on the right to possibly be where support will come back into play and us to see a continuation. So I kind of like this candle here, and on the 5-minute chart, I feel like this would be some support just because it was almost like an inside green candle minus the wick. So I think there might be some support coming in off of this candle. But we have to first break below this even to consider support levels to be in play. Also, you'd have to measure out your risk-reward to see if it's worth going from this breakage of this level down to here. Is that worth it to you to attempt that? You're risking maybe 13 ticks to make 7, or do you want to risk 13 ticks to make about 23 or so? Let's just call it 20. Okay. So if those are worth your risk reward, if you break below that, then maybe that would be. I have no idea where the zones are. I have no idea about context of this market. So this is just a pure price action read. Okay. So let's see what happens on the next bar. Oh, the next bar is green. All right. So obviously we did not break the low of these two candles down here. So there is no reason to be looking short as this candle forms here. So maybe it's just more consolidation to the upside, and lo and behold, we have a new green bar coming out of that area of consolidation. But this right here, this has really formed good consolidation, kind of like what this red bar did for me over here, like all the way from the high down here to the bottom. This forms really good consolidation. Okay, so these are two areas for support that I'm looking at. All right, just on the 5-minute bars here. But it would be nice to jump into the trend, but we haven't seen a good, at least from a pullback standpoint, I haven't seen a good place to jump in a trend follow way for these past few bars here. Okay, so if you're jumping onto a trend, maybe you could have jumped onto the trend at the open of this particular market, as it was doing a little bit of a retest, and then or maybe jumped into it as a breakout trade. But from a retest standpoint, the retests have been very, very shallow, and this thing feels a lot like a micro trend. Okay, so when I say micro trends, what I'm referring to is your pullbacks are very, very shallow, and you don't get a whole lot of them, and it really goes up quite quickly. If you're looking to short, maybe you saw a red candle plot off of some level that may have been here, and it would have been a real preemptive short because you had no confirmation of that breaking below that little zone that we have there, if you will. Alright, so let's go on to the next bar here. I'm also going to bring up the questions, just so if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, I want to make sure that I get those answered. Oh, so we have a new shooting star candle up here. So this is textbook definition of a shooting star. Let's go to the next bar. If it breaks below it, now I'm just looking at that area of consolidation. If it breaks below there, it doesn't break below it at all. And instead, we have another big green bar, So that micro trend idea is still going on. And this little shooting star candle, all it does is it means about as much as these other two areas of support that we've mentioned. Okay, so no continuation, or I'm sorry, no retracement to the downside. That micro trend idea is still very much in play in my book. Okay, now we have a red candle. Obviously failure to break the high on this candle here, which that's kind of interesting. All right, so this is almost the first candle that we've seen that's failed to break the high, and that's red, almost. But again, consolidation. It could easily bounce off of support down here, most recent support. But nothing that I would say to go long or short on that candle either. So again, I have no context other than the trend is up. The trend is way down below us as to what's going to go on here. What's the difference in between a microtrend and a continuation of the epitrender? Okay, microtrends, they're very steep in nature. You can see how steep this thing is going up. And you saw me draw a little trend line from these two points here, right? Well, a lot of times in a normal trend, we will get a pullback of some sort to like a trend line that you can pull. But when you start doing this micro trend thing, a lot of times it's even hard to find 2 points to draw a trend line to the upside on, because it's just so hard and heavy, and there is no retracement at all. Like there's no the normal gyrations of the market, would say that we're going up and then we go down a little bit, and we go up kind of in this wave pattern formation. But in a micro trend, this thing is so steep. Let me draw it maybe over here. It's so steep that you basically see what's happened over there, and it just keeps on going up, And it's so hard to get anything because there's no retracement to really point to. It's very hard to draw trend lines on a micro trend, And when you're in a microtrend, or if you feel that you are seeing a microtrend develop, don't try to short that thing, because you're going to get hammered. It's just the way it works. Look at some of these explosions that we've had out of this. After this bar here, green bar, we finally see our first red bar. And look at how fast that green bar pops up there. I can almost guarantee you that stops were there, and probably a lot of volume was on that bar, just because people are trying to short in front of a micro trend, and you're just be careful, because your retracements are so thin after these two red bars, very small red bars. There's no retracement going on, and you just don't want to be on the wrong side of a micro trend, So it's better just to wait until you see a lot of exhaustion come in, which this red bar, failing to break the high, a little bit, but still we haven't seen any type of retest of support areas. And okay, we finally got another red bar, 2 red bars in a row, so kind of a good sign here, but we're bouncing right off the top of what could be support again, so kind of would like to see a retest of the high, but we'll just see what happens here. Still, there's no real sign long or short for me. And there's the retest of the high coming into play on this next bar. Technically speaking, this is a single bar engulf. So this green bar has surpassed the high of this red bar. Okay. Risk reward is not there for me on this, but you know, that's what we're looking at. Okay, so green bar up. Now this is a red bar, and it's basically, since there wasn't like a continuation to the upside, this could be an area for a particular short just below this level here. Okay, because we've had a new high, and this green bar is a failure to break the high, and now I'd be looking possibly at a short below this point. So let's see what happens. Okay, 2 bars have gone by. Not a lot of conviction on the downside. I would like to have seen maybe that low get popped really, really quick, but it did not. So obviously price is starting to stall here for us. Again, price is continuing to stall as failure to break that way. So as it's not breaking below this point here, it's just the stalling of price action. So there's really nothing to do here either. Okay, so again, stalling out. Doji, we're really stalling. Dojis are a lot of times a good representation of just price stalling out, but we do know that we've had a big push up and we're starting to stall. So these candles are all signs of that. Again, more stall, indecision. Technically speaking, you could take the short now below these bars here, you know. I would just really want to wait and see a breakout, because I feel like there's 2 major areas for breakout, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I don't see a position one way or another. Because it's kind of going flat here for an extended period of time, thinking it may continue to the upside. There we go. Alright. Now, I just made a comment there about a continuation to the upside, and we can see that this bar just made a new high. Now, what was that in my brain that made me think that? I think it was this. Red bars aren't coming too far down here. We're not really seeing a big retest down here. So when the red bar came down and when the green bar came down here, I feel like this bar's low held, and so I feel like that was support. That was like new support that held there, and then I think what I saw was this red bar that again failed to break like the low there, a couple lows, knowing that I'm in a big uptrend, right? Big uptrend, failing to break the low, and then on this bar right here, I think what happened was this green bar right here was I saw that single bar engulf, and us making higher lows. So here's the lowest low on this little range area here. Higher low, higher low, higher low, and then engulf, um, in my definition of engulf right there. And so I'm not surprised to see this bar print a new high. Okay. Now I have no idea about context, because what could be happening over here overall is, let's just play a little bit of zone theory, is let's say we've had price action come up into the zone or up into an area, and it stalls out, peaks into this zone, and then reverses. That could happen too. Now, depending on where all this stalling happens, and I have no idea, I have no reference of where high is, where low is. I have no idea. Okay, but this could be a case that we're in right now. We could also be in something like this. Maybe we had a demand zone down here, and I feel like maybe we've made a move, kind of up there a little bit, and now we've stalled for a little while, and now we're going to do a continuation type of deal to the upside. All right. So that's the two things that I see. I think I also probably see this as a little bit of a wedge type formation too, and we're going to get into that in the price action school, or if you just want to go review the videos on the website, that wedge type of formation after a big long up move a lot of times leads to another push to the upside. So this is the example that I'm thinking could happen, but I don't know where I am in context of the bigger time frames. I'm just looking at the bars. No idea whatsoever. So we'll see what happens here. But that really wasn't that bad of a trade coming out of there, and just with the lower highs and after a big move to the upside, it just makes sense to me. So we'll see what goes on. Okay, so now we have a typical tweezer top, which I think this is Tom's favorite setup, is the tweezer top. He's gotten really good at identifying those during the APA pub. So there's your tweezer top. And if that is tweezer top, then it could come back down here a little bit, but we will see. And there we go. It's coming back down. So based on this price action here, we put in just a new little high. So I kind of feel like that first idea may have been what we're actually seeing. And I feel very, very blind not having zones to reference right now. So, but that's what the price action is telling me, okay? But, we've made a new high, but this could be happening here. And it's just enough to take out stops just above us with the tweezer top, and then come back down. So we'll see what happens. I'm okay either way that it goes. I think this right there, when I was telling everybody that this was looking very interesting to me, that's something that I think has been programmed into my brain as I've been programming all this stuff. Like, I look at that and I just think, man, that just looks pretty, And I think that's really what my brain keyed off of, if it's keying off of anything at all. So I'm hoping that this really helps give you more insight to how deep the price action read actually goes. And I have no idea if APA methods would have signaled off of this candle or not. It's very possible it could have, but it was a nice little push to the upside. If you were to get into a long position off of a small stop and a 1-to-1, maybe 1-to-2 ratio, there's no reason to get out of the position right now. but we'll see what happens here. Ho ho! Well, that was a little interesting candle. It's retesting right back into that thing. So if I was getting long out of here, your entry would be retested, and we just need to wait and see. But this price bar is really interesting to me because there's no wick on this at all. So bears are starting to step in here with a little bit of force. Okay, don't know how much, but I think it could get down in this consolidation area a little bit more. And I'm not going to throw in any zones here, just because we're not talking about zones today. We're talking about simple bar rating. But it goes so well. Like, it just goes hand in hand. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, so got a little bit lower. Let's check to see where this low is. This is a spinning top candle, so there's a little bit of equilibrium. We could start to see a reversal here. Obviously, we're retesting back down into the lows of this area of consolidation over here on the right. I'm going to draw just a small zone, okay? Just a little one, okay? It's not a real zone. I didn't extend it over to the right, but that's what I kind of see, all right? So that's kind of where I see this support level at. Okay, so we're retesting that right now in this bar. A little bit of hesitation, but no reason to take this long, no reason to take the short at this time. All right. So this green bar tells me a little bit more into the price action picture. We have retested that area that we're talking about, and technically this is a one bar engulf here. So we'll see what happens. Doji with just a little bit to the upside, so it may be stalling out again here. We will wait and see. There we go. The bulls come in, force, and let's see a retest of the high if we can. All right, we're getting up there slowly but surely, but we've definitely found a area of consolidation. This new high here, but failing to break the lows. So let's see if the uptrend still continues or not. Again, having no idea of context, it makes it pretty tough. But this was an interesting candle formation for me right here. That was kind of interesting. Like, depending on where you put your stop, you could have already paid for the trade to the long side if it happens, and we'll see how that goes. Now, even though we've had a big uptrend, I'm kind of still thinking to the long. I think it's also to balance out your thinking. Don't get married to the long positions, just because if you do, you're going to regret it. And let's look at the short play too. So new high off that tweezer top, green candle up, red candle made a new high there, and so I'm going to draw a little trend line from that high to that high, which is the highest point from where that next green candle plotted. All right, so kind of feel like there's a little trend line thing going on there. We'll see how that goes. I also feel like there may be another trend line going on right there too, just highlighting that low and that low. Let's take out that zone, if you will. So kind of feels like we're starting to wedge again. All right, so if you did take a position off of something like this with a small stop, pay for your trade real quick, and let's see what happens next. All right, so a new high on this candle. Now this green candle here makes me feel like this trend line is starting to be broken, okay, because we've had a nice firm close above it, close of this green candle. we've had an open above it and a close above that trend line, so I feel like we may see a little bit of an inversion there, but I'm starting to feel that trend line is being broken. So I'm looking to see, and the reason why I just left this thing on here is we may see a retest of like the inversion of the trend line, maybe a little bit further down here to where this little red bar is, before we see another retest of the high. There we go. Now let's see if the high gets retested here. No, it does not. Okay, so there's the inversion right there. It looks like we can extend that out a little bit there. That was the highest point that we've seen this thing go, right up there. So if a position was taken here, you technically speaking, from a price action standpoint, this might be a good time to scratch out on it, because you're failing to break the highs right now. And I kind of feel like this is the area of the high. You see that consolidation up there next to the high? We did have two bars that retested that area of consolidation, and we failed to break them. Now, we haven't broken them in a pattern that I like to see as far as pushing to the downside, but we're going into a tight range. I think that's all that you can really say about that one. But we have failed to break the high, so it looks kind of interesting to the downside right now for me. And there we go. There's continuation to the downside. This could be a little bit of a retest. New lows on all these candles. New low. And now we could have a little bit of retest, looking at areas of consolidation for the retest. Just making sure I don't have any questions here. So I see that little area of consolidation. Do you see where the close of those candles are, as well as the open is, and the open of that red candle? Hopefully you can kind of feel that consolidation right there with me. So we could see a retest up into that area, but starting to feel the short play into effect. Okay, so we finally got a retest of this. And now the continuation. So green bar touching it, doji touching it, and then big red bar, and retest the lows. I'm looking for that low to break. This really isn't a bad entry to the downside here, considering we know that this is at support. It is at 4:30 in the morning, so that's not a bad area as long as you can make the trade pay for itself pretty quickly as you're playing the range. You got to realize where your low is. Your most recent low is down there, so you have to play it before that in a little scalping type of fashion. A retest of that zone. We've already had one touch of this zone, or of this resistance area, so now we're encountering a second touch of this thing, so this area is done. Price does not have to respect this area any longer in my book. Okay, so if it doesn't respect this area at all, and this little area of consolidation, that was really these few bars right here, and I kind of feel like we're retesting just to the very top of that range of those consolidation bars. Let's go see what happens at the top. Bulls are starting to show their hand. This is a very bullish candle here. And so I want to go see what's sitting up here at the top again. And I think that's what price will do. Oh, it's right back into that area again. So there's a retest of the high and the retest of the high to the tick. This is a shooting star candle. So, but it is a new high, so no reason for reversal until this candle comes along. This is a real good failure of the high, and the reason why I say it's a real good failure of the high is this gets me excited right here. You see these two green bars, this red bar engulfed both of them. So engulf the shooting star candle, engulf the other previous green bar. I want to go see what the bottom of this area looks like. Excuse me. I want to go see what the bottom looks like right there, because that was a real good failure to break the high. Oh, well, it came down there. I was looking for a little bit more, but that definitely came down there. So you can kind of feel how we're moving back and forth now. All right, so we've just popped the top just ever so slightly on that thing, but that was this big red candle really told me that let's go retest this area here. You know, like I got really excited because that's a real good sign that bears are in control, and you should be able to get something out of that as you retest the area of support down below. Okay, so obviously it went down there a good deal, but big, huge bull bar. All right, now as we've gone through all this consolidation and all this chop, I think it's important to realize that the market's going to spend a majority of its time in the range. And I've heard a lot of people say 70% of the time. You know, we have to be able to take that and to play it efficiently, in my mind. Because when is the trend going to happen? Well, I don't know. You know, like it could happen at any time. But if we're playing the range well, you know, depending on how you're doing it over here, I saw this as an entry to the long side. Where do you put your stop? Well, technically, you want to put your stop just below your lowest low that you feel is going to be respected. So this could be a way of holding that position. And if you're taking the short on here or the short there, you know, look at your areas of consolidation and put your stop above that. I feel like that one was a real quick entry, but you know that your first target had to be really, really small. You could get a 1-to-1 off of that if you played it right. This one, you know, it just depends on how you play it. Okay, so broke the top, a little bit of consolidation because we've just broken the top just by a couple ticks. Comes back, kind of reaffirms that area. So no longer am I looking at this area as resistance, but this candle formation is now turning into support for the future. Okay, so we popped the top, had a red candle down. Don't get short on this one red candle down. Technically, from a price action standpoint, you have one red candle down. You need to see another one. You need to see a new low. And this is just price action trading in my book. Once we see this low here come into play, what you could do from a pure price action standpoint is if this red bar or if this green bar is big enough right here, is we could play the bottom of this thing. Okay, so if your risk to reward lines up okay and you get a tick below the low of that red bar, you can play from the low of that red bar down to this point here, basically down to the low, maybe a tick or two there, if your risk to reward allows you to do so. You know, and that would allow you to jump on something to the short side. But that obviously did not happen in this case, because this big bullish green bar is so bullish. And I have no idea what I'm hitting in the big time frames, but this big green bar is so bullish, you don't really want to short after that unless you have a really, really good reason to do so, you know. And as we can see here, we've put in a new high above that. So the uptrend is definitely in play. So that's kind of interesting, and we will see how things continue on from here. And I'm just going to do a couple more bars here. Looks like we're making new highs, new highs. I'm kind of looking for this wick to be retested on this bar, which it looks like it is. So I wonder if that wick will maybe hold a little bit of support, but that would be temporary support resistance. But the major level would be the inverse of this level down here, would be the big thing that I'm looking for possibly an area of support. Okay, so let's see if this thing gets busted. Oh, there, it just busted below that, just by a tick. Goes up higher, and now we're into the U.S. session, coming into the open here. So technically, based on this price action formation right here of these two candles, you could take a long to the upside, maybe up to 65 here, to where that this green bar's low is, with your stop just below this low. So you got about a 2-to-1 ratio. I don't know if it'll work out or not, but this would be a kind of a looking at maybe stops being ran on this doji and then pushing it back up into the highs again. So it did come up here a little bit, not the confirmation that we really want. Kind of a wicky candle on this, and kind of a spinning top on here, and not exactly the follow through that we want to have happen. But you know, stop needs to be just below this doji here. So looks like it's about 4 ticks. Oh, and there we finally go. So it was a little quick, but basic idea got there. New high, new high, new high, and I think I'm going to kind of stop at that point. Just want to see if anybody has any questions at this point as to what's going on in my analysis. Obviously, this was a very bullish day for the euro. Wasn't sure what would really happen here, but my brain's getting kind of tired of doing this. It is very taxing, so this is why I like to use the AppAtime tool, so I only have to look at this type of stuff right around certain times of the day. So hope that helps, and let's get into any questions that you guys may have. Was this helpful at all? Just out of curiosity. That's a good question. If the trend is generally up, why did you look at the counter trend trades? Reading the bars, I have no idea where supply is and where demand is, and I think it's important to balance out the side of everything. I drew a trend line here just to give us a balanced side of the equation. As a trader, I found it a very good thing to stay very agile on your feet. Because when you get married to a position, when you get married to the trend, if you will, sometimes it stops you from taking the best move of the day, you know, because you're married with the trend. Um, Knowing that the trend was up at the very beginning of the day obviously gave me a long bias, but I want to balance out. I want to keep things balanced. So both sides are equally cool. Um, Failing to break the lows several times, and that I would say, let me, I drew it as two separate lines, but it's actually just one line that we should be looking at here, just so that hopefully you can follow along. Like this line, or this ray that we extend across the bottom here, that was never broken, you know? That support always held throughout the whole entire day. And that's actually pretty big, you know? Hopefully mentioning that we are making new higher highs, definition of an uptrend, you're making new higher highs and higher lows. That is the definition of an uptrend. Obviously, we went microchannel coming out of the open of this particular market. We ranged, made a new high, and again, I wasn't able to tell where I was in the big picture of things. I have no idea. I'm just reading bar by bar, you know. We could have seen something like that. We could also see something like the other way too, you know, where it comes across here and goes up, you know. And I have no idea where we are, you know. So I don't want to get married to one side, but realizing that our trend was up, which, you know, I think pretty well stated that, that was a big thing for me too. So sometimes the shorts can get you profitability in an uptrend, and you know, you can go either way. There's always going to be bears and bulls either way. So, but that is a good question, you know. I just want to balance out the sign. Yeah. Hmm. So there's a way to enter into a microtrend if you feel that you are into a microtrend. Um, it's part of the reasons why some of the EPA methods are the way that they are. And if you guys attended last week's webinar, we talked about this, and that was the EPA zones MTF, or methodologies MTF. All right, so uh, if you feel that we're in a steep uptrend and you're looking to get on in almost a breakout way, you can use the EPA methodologies MTF to do so. But I think before we actually get into the actual software, which, you know what, I'm not even going to get into the software. I want to make sure you guys understand theory, because theory is what's going to really help in understanding what's going on, because this stuff is not rocket science, right? At least I hope it's not rocket science. Let me bring over my paint program here. So let's just say that we have demand zone down here, right? And as price is moving along, it's doing its little thing, and we're coming up from demand, you know, and then as soon as this zone prints on the EPA methods, what you can enable is the breakout rules, and it will also print like a little blue line right up here. Maybe let's make that a little bit bigger. Print a little blue line right here, because as soon as we see price come back down at all, it prints that little blue line. All right. So what this is really good for is to jumping onto microtrends, because this zone could form off of a very small tick chart. And even though you're on a 5-minute chart, you're seeing microtrend, like boom, boom, boom. So at this point, you're like, okay, so obviously it failed to break this low on this candle here. We have a green candle, which is no wick on it whatsoever. More than likely it's going to go up to the upside, and you could actually hopefully find that the APA methodologies would print maybe a little blue line right there, just because of that smaller time frame, maybe 1 minute, maybe some type of tick chart. I don't watch the euro at all, so I don't know what tick chart I would use or anything. But looking at possibly using that tick chart APA methods breakout to say that, hey, if we get above this line, there's a good reason that you should be thinking long, because it's actually formed support on a smaller time frame that you may not be able to see, and this pattern has already happened, and you could get into the breakout that way, So I have thought about that. So next question is, wonder if you would provide the same analysis on the CL utilizing APA time via market replay. Oh, that, and picking a random day or month in the past. I really like that idea. We could definitely start doing that in some of the trainings. That would be really cool, because like today was a great day to see those tops and the bottoms of the market happen at the time of day. So that would be really, really cool. I'm just curious to see how high this thing went, because this thing probably went a little bit higher. Yeah, it did. So it surely did. I do like this type of a pullback idea here. This may have been a little preemptive on it in a price action standpoint, but it worked. This setup right here is also very, very good. So I kind of like both of those. Just as far as price action long signals go, and when I say price action long signals, I'm looking for a single bar or double bar engulf, basically at support. So we had this signal right here. That would have been one. This would have been one. These three candles would have been one. And this would have been one. That would have been one. This one would have been one. And that's about it. So those are all the price action long signals based upon the double bar, single bar engulfing patterns. But yeah. Something else that I have developed, it's called a raw indicator, or I call it a raw indicator. Basically, it's all the APA methods without it's the price action confirmation signals without the zones in play. So we can see a lot of those as they work out. And it looks like some of the logic changed, so I may not have been able to, well, anyway, that's what it used to do. It looks like I've changed the programming since I've first put this on, but there's a lot of little tweaks of the software, but I know a lot of that logic in there is still there. It's a raw indicator, so it's not good to really look at it in an analysis standpoint, because it's going to throw up every single one of these entries here, you know. Boom, 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 you know, and I think you need more context than that. If you are watching the time of day, now this should be interesting. We're going to do this and see what happens here. Yeah, I'm just going to put it to that. So this should be the UK session here. But look at where all those little signals happened at. Except for that one, that was a little bit on the edge of that, so I'm not sure that one would actually feel anything there, but boom, 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 boom. Wow. Tell me that the institutions don't play that thing. That's really interesting. At least it's really interesting to me. Here's the beginning of that market. And the first 15 minutes, which what a lot of times happens at the first 15 minutes, it's a little retracement or it's an extension type of deal, and it looks like it was a little retracement at the first 15 minutes there, followed by that little red bar, and then boom, 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 you know. Kind of interesting how that works. So anyway, hope that answers all the questions there. And we are coming into an hour now, so if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask them. I'm going to